You're listening to The Coaching Divas, a podcast for everyone navigating the twists and turns of corporate life.
Follow along as we chat through common workplace situations and extend the coach approach to help you handle them with ease.
We offer a cross-sectional view that spans generations, positions, workplaces, and lifestyles.
We're your hosts,
Claudia Jones,
Daniela Velkovic,
and Misha Jespa, and we are
The Coaching Divas.
Welcome back to The Coaching Divas. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits all of us. Whether you're running a household, leading a team, or simply trying to remember where you left your coffee, we're talking about recharging when your energy is low, or let's be honest, when you're at absolute zero and running on hopes, dreams, and maybe a granola bar. If you've ever found yourself staring at your laptop like it personally offended you, or scrolling your phone while convincing yourself it's rest, this episode is for you. We're unpacking what it really takes to refuel in a world that loves to pretend we're all solar powered and endlessly available. So plug in, power down, grab a blanket, or just flop dramatically onto the nearest soft surface. No judgment here. Let's talk about how to get your spark back when the tank is bone dry.
So the topic of recharging, gosh, I only wish I had those words in the moments when I needed to recharge in the past. What does recharging look like? How do you even know that you need to recharge? I guess the first question I'd ask.
I think that comes down to kind of tuning into yourself and knowing the difference between resting, which is more or less just stopping what you're doing, maybe taking a nap, versus recharging. So intentionally doing something that's going to restore you. But I think the first piece of it is just stop. Stop what you're doing and almost do that self-assessment.
And I agree, Misha. And I think the first sign people should really acknowledge is that when they're physically exhausted, right? I mean, you're just downright tired, and pushing through and just getting things done really doesn't buy you anything, just makes you more tired. And then you have to question, am I doing what I need to do properly and as good as I can do it? So yes, just recognizing the different types of energy levels today and recognizing and knowing how to address it.
So I would take it on a personal level. So there have been moments when I've been exhausted, but I didn't even know that that was what was going on. So if I had to kind of bottom line it for our audience, some of the feelings that now I'm reflecting on, being able to share, are things like, I find it hard to get up in the morning. Midday, I'm on my fourth coffee. The idea of having to go into a meeting and to socialize with people, just don't have it. Do I have to show up at the team water cooler to joke around with someone? I don't want to. Getting home, oh my gosh, I get home, do I even want to make a dinner? Or am I just going to, order something from a delivery service? Maybe my partner is making dinner for me and I'm not even acknowledging it. Those are all simple little examples. And the outside world might be saying, oh, you're just making it up. But when I was in those moments, I was tired. I was ragged. I wasn't able to, I use the expression, I was on autopilot. In those moments, if you ask me, do I remember what I was doing day to day? No. I was just autopiloting it. I was getting stuff done just to get it done. So that if I had to kind of think about that kind of feeling, that's what came up for me. And I will say for our audience, I think it's very personal. What about you guys? Have you had any of those type of occurrences that maybe we could start off as a baseline for our audience?
Before I share mine, I think what's important to recognize and kind of normalize is the energy crash. Everyone hits zero. High performers, parents, leaders, even people who look like they have it all together. Low energy isn't a personal failure. To me, I think it's biological. It's life load. It's, you're overstimulating yourself. And so to be able to recharge is a skill. It's not something it's not a luxury. It's not like, oh, I can't afford to do that. So I think before I answer your question, I just want to normalize for everyone that everybody goes through this, whether they want to admit it or not. And How it shows up, I agree, is different. I resonate with the examples that you share, especially the motivation to get up in the morning. I could keep snoozing my alarm right now. The other, though, is when I look at my day. So I start to almost plan when I need to wake up based on when's my first meeting, which is usually 8 a.m. So it never changes. But somehow in my mind, I convince myself I can get dressed faster. I also start to notice, for me, when I'm having that, like, even if I were to call it like an energy leak, or like I'm leaking energy, is when I start to get closer and closer and closer to showing up at work at the same time my first meeting's going to start. So I'm not even giving myself a buffer to get in, settle myself down. Or another energy leak for me is if I'm going to be in back-to-back-to-back meetings all day, it's I'd rather be at home. I cannot be in the office. I can't be overstimulated by other people's meetings or people coming up to me. And so those are some of the triggers where I'm like, okay, Misha, I think your energy might be low. I think you might need to take a break or look at one of your weekends and not just say, okay, I'm going to do the usual, clean the house, meal prep, and forget the checklist. Ask for help. Ask somebody else to do the meal prep, or maybe plan my meals differently for the week that includes a little bit more grace, so that I don't start to make myself feel guilty when the day shows up and I'm like, I can't be bothered to cook. I'm just going to order something.
Being just a tad bit older than the two of you, I grew up in the time of when women would claim, I can bring home the bacon and I can fry it up in a pan. And that's an old song by Peggy Lee. It's called I'm a Woman. And it just sets such an unrealistic expectation about what we believe we need to do for ourselves. Having that level of high expectations certainly leads to physical exhaustion for sure, if not both mentally and emotional exhaustion as well. So when you have these crazy expectations that I can do it all, this is really when you start to burn yourself out. And all this exhaustion, these energy levels are extremely low. And I don't know why we do that to ourselves, to say, I need to be up here, when in reality, we just can't meet those expectations. And I think we need to appreciate the fact that it's okay to say, no, I'm not going to do that. My energy levels are just drained. And no, I can't do it all. I have to set realistic expectations. And admitting that to yourself, I think, is always one of the first steps, that, you're not infallible. You can just reset and say, you know what, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to set my alarm for this time because I need this rest. I need this time to recharge my batteries. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. It's just admitting that, you know what, for me to be a better person, rest is just as important as being super productive all the time.
I think the other side to that is also, number one, having the awareness, which we hope this podcast raises for everyone to start thinking about this. But two, there's a couple of things you can do in the moment. So when you are feeling, and I'll use the expression, I'm ragged, I'm running from meeting to meeting to meeting, can you do a micro reset? Can you take a moment, go to a quiet spot, and just do some breathing exercises? For me personally, I found sometimes when I'm getting anxiety coming up in the workplace, I hold my breath and I count from 10 backwards. Big breath in, and then I hold it 10, 9, 8, 7. And by the time I get to 2, my biological system has kind of brought me back to a center. So when I need to go to the next thing, I'm feeling a bit more grounded. In preparing for this call, I just did a couple of, there's something called box breathing. 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold, 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. And here's the thing, find what is that, micro reset, I think is the expression they use, that'll help you get grounded in that moment. So you're not panicking. You're not feeling like you're not ready, for the next thing. And let me take it even a step further. If you are in back-to-back meetings, find a way to say it's okay if I show up 2 to 3 minutes late for the next meeting so I can go and take a quick break. Or intentionally book each of your meetings so they end at 5 minutes before the hour. And tell everybody, we need to take 5 minutes before the hour. And don't let your meeting run over those 5 minutes. Right? So these are some intentional ways to even think about it as I'll use the expression, micro reset. I love that way of looking at it.
I think also micro resets breath work is definitely one of them. I think slightly, maybe a little bit longer than a micro reset would be if you need to go for a walk. I say if you are in an office, going like just walk around the building outside so you get fresh air. Even being able to just get up and stretch. The number of times I've sat in like a morning marathon of meetings and then come like 12 o'clock, I literally stand up and then I realize this is the first time I've stood up since 8 a.m. And just to be able to allow yourself to stretch, get out of that hunched forward position, open up your chest and just stretch, that could also be a micro reset. Silence can be one too. Just put yourself into a meeting room, or if you've got like a closed door working space where you can kind of sit and just decompress in silence, that's also a form of micro reset. And then I think the last one for me is changing your workspace. If you're in an office, changing your workspace could be going from your desk to a meeting room, or if you're able to and you have like hotel seating, go to another floor or sit in like an open space. So somewhere that's going to shift your energy for what you need. If you are like, okay, I'm really low energy, I need to be like more energized, and you get energy through people, going and sitting, let's say, in like an open kitchen space or just an open space that isn't yours, that could give it to you. If you're not that type of person, you're like, I need quiet, I need solitude, book a meeting room and go work in there for a couple hours. That can help change your energy. If you're at home and you work from home a lot, if you have an office space, but you have a laptop, perhaps it's going to work from the kitchen table or maybe even the couch if you can, or go to a coffee shop, go to a workspace, like a shared workspace, something that's going to shift your physical environment that could then help shift your mental or emotional energy as well.
Yeah, I think just even the act of getting up and physically walking to a different space, even that 30, 45-second walk could make a big difference as well. I'm also going to add one more tip to what you recommended, Misha, and that would be, I found a lot of great energy just looking out the window. Because now I'm not looking at an inside space. I'm actually looking at the outside, whether I'm, in downtown of a big city or if I'm working from home. When I look out the window, I see something different and I can see activity out there. It just almost takes me away out of the office environment into that other environment. It just makes me feel as though, I can breathe. There's more out there than just what I'm focusing on. It just helps me reset as to the magnitude of my issues, and just says, you know what, it's not the end of the world. This is gonna be okay. And it just emotionally and mentally just helps me put things into perspective, resetting, like he said earlier.
Yeah. The other thing that always helps from a mental rebooting standpoint, if you really need, if you're feeling like you're so tired and you're trudging through the report, you gotta, learn the agentic tool that's come out. You need to utilize something necessary for whatever, and you're just exhausted. Sometimes it also helps find 2 songs that energize you and dance to those 2 songs. Just let that energy flow, because what you're penting up is potential anxiety, and you're a ball of nerves, and that energy needs to go somewhere, but it's energy that's not of service to you. It is impractical energy. So find, we talked about going for a walk. Maybe you need to go for a brisk walk. Maybe you need to go for a quick run if you like to run. Maybe have some playtime with your dog, whatever that looks like, but find a way to just let it out. Let It Go is a great song. If you're in that moment, I use it often, put on Disney and let it go and dance to the song. Find that physicality, but in such a way that you're really shifting and reframing the moment that you're in. And the other thing that's come up is, you're tired throughout the day. What are you doing in the evening? How are you letting your body reset in that evening moment? One thing that might be helpful is write down what was one really great thing for the day and what's one thing you wish you could have done differently. And then just put it away. And when you wake up in the morning, take a look at what you wrote and think about how you're going to do it differently.
I think we're talking a lot about moment in time. being able to rest, recharge, what I would love to offer to our audience is the concept of an energy toolbox. So once you have had the chance to rest and recharge, to get some of that energy back, I'd love to invite folks to really look at energy as like a toolkit or a toolbox. So what are the things that you could be doing daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, to be able to ensure you can rest and recharge and you can regain that energy. So I'll give you examples. On a daily basis, I might see doing something as simple as my skincare routine as a moment that I can shut out the world, I can focus on myself, and this is my, 10 minutes to recharge for me. So that's a daily task. Another daily task could be exactly what Daniela just mentioned at the end of the day, doing a quick reflection. And that can then help either reset my motivation, realign myself. Then you start to look at like weekly and monthly. So what's a good example of weekly? Potentially cleaning your space. If you are the type of person that likes to be in an organized environment, cleaning your space once a week could give you that moment to mentally reset, recharge.
Can I offer another one?
Yeah, go for it.
If you like yoga, sign up for a weekly yoga class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a Pilates class where you are stretching your body and your brain is confused.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Completely different way.
Yes.
Because now your body has to do something different.
Yes. Even if you're the type of person that likes to work out, but you're going to work out, let's say 3 times a week, that can go into your weekly bucket. So at any point during the week, you can pull on a workout to be like, okay, this is the type of energy that I need to kind of reset myself. Monthly could be stuff like going to get your nails done or going for a massage. What else, ladies? What else can you do?
Getting your hair done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Going for a blowout.
Done. Yeah.
Because why not?
Why not? Why not? If you're for men, it could be the same thing, going to get your hair trimmed, getting your beard lined up, things like that. And then I put this as yearly, but like it can happen multiple times a year. Things like a vacation. A lot of people, I think, find, especially folks that are, working full time and all of that, they almost look to their next vacation. So once their vacation comes up, they're like, I already have my next one booked. That is technically a form of recharge that you're mentally looking forward to. And then in the moment, it is both a kind of sensory reset as well as a physical one, because you're in a different place. Being on vacation, you're put in such a different sensory space, a different mental space, a different emotional space. And so vacations, whether they happen once a year or multiple times a year, is also a form of rest. And so when you start to look at, things that you might already be doing or things you want to be doing, and you consider them as part of your energy toolkit or your toolbox, this then can help shift how you are constantly keeping your energy top of mind and something that you want to protect and preserve.
Yeah, but one word of caution about your toolkit, don't just make the vacation part of it. It's all of these pieces coming together, right? Because just planning for the next vacation as your recharge will not help you in the moment, and you need that support presence within your toolkit for all of these times, right?
Yeah. Misha, if I can tag on to what you just said, you have to remember to, as best as you can, unplug during that 1 hour, 1 day, 2-week vacation. Because if you've constantly got a device beside you dinging away, there's no way you can actually truly reset and recharge yourself, because your mind's always going somewhere else. Your emotions are going elsewhere. And you really need to be able to decompress and be able to take that time and just say, what's really important to me, and, play with that energy toolbox and just see what tools you can bring out of it and what you could do better.
The other thing to be thinking about is, how do you take all that we've shared, but then create a longer game recharge? So your toolbox is what you're going to come back to in the shorter term, but what are you going to change overall about how you approach things so that recharging isn't such a hard lift in the future? And some things that come to mind, and I've been doing this, or I've been trying to since I got a dog, because he keeps me in line. I'm guarding my sleep. Like it's an inheritance. I am expected to be in bed by 9:30 to some shape, way, or form. And if it's like 10 o'clock, 10:15, 10:20, I'm getting a certain look, which for me, it's great because I'm in bed at that time, but then I'm reading a book until I'm ready to fall asleep. And that's become part of that, I'll call it habit, but it's a good habit.
Yeah.
Because I get to also decompress in that moment before I need to get up the next morning for the next thing.
Yeah. I think for me, it goes back to what I said earlier. Recharging is a skill. It's not a luxury that only some people can afford to do. Everyone can afford to recharge. And so I think if you reframe recharging and your energy as a skill, I think that then forces you to constantly keep at it. So it's not something you don't want to recharge when you have hit zero. You want to be able to recharge before you hit zero. And I think all of that comes down to, as a skill, awareness. So keep yourself aware of, what are the physical things that are potentially stressing me, the mental things, the emotional, and then keep yourself in check to then be able to do the recharge to help lessen those loads.
Yeah. Another term which resonates maybe differently for me, best practice. What are the best practices for me? Because they're different for every single person, right? Like Daniela gets to bed early at 9:30. I physically cannot do that. I'm a night owl, so I'm a low energy in the morning, but I've got a lot more energy in the evening. So going to bed at 9:30, I'd be stirring up like crazy. So I know that's not a best practice for me, but it's one for her. So kudos. That's great. So at least you know who you are, you recognize yourself, and you act accordingly. You don't have to compare yourself to other people. You know what works best for yourself. And I think that's the real important part, is that it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. It's what works for different people. I mean, I know a lot of people who love racket sports or playing golf. It's that physical activity of swinging and actually physically hitting something. It actually releases a whole bunch of the dopamine and the cortisol. So you do have all this feel-good energy coming your way. And usually after a strenuous activity like something like that, or even going for a long run, people have the runner's high. Sometimes it's just being more active actually gives you more energy coming back at you. Again, best practice for yourself, not for other people. So you need to really recognize what works for you and what doesn't work for you. I mean, so for me, well, I'm not a huge dancer. I love listening to music and I listen to it pretty loudly. And it just gets me bopping in my chair. And then the cortisone and the dopamine levels are just flying off. And I've got great energy after that. I'm in a really good mood and I'm ready to tackle on the world afterwards. So whatever works for you, whatever best practices work for you, because we're all different and we can't compare. And you just do what you know works for you, best for you.
The other thing you might be able to do is learn how to say no earlier than feels comfortable. And that's a whole other can of worms. I know. But it is actually remembering that if your energy is getting drained very quickly, how many things are you saying yes to? Whether intentional or unintentional, how many people are you trying to make happy? How many things are you putting on your plate that perhaps you should be saying no to? And it could be your own personal plate, because we all create these lists and these expectations. And I have a Saturday and I'm going to pack everything into that Saturday to da-da-da-da-da. Is everything really necessary? That's some other things to be thinking about. And how do you build white space into your calendar? Intentionally, I'm not going to schedule anything for 2 hours. Whew, how does that feel? By doing that, actually saying for 2 hours, what can you do with those 2 hours that's focused on the recharge, the reset, the ritual, the dancing, the walk?
Or just schedule that walk in your calendar.
Whatever it looks like. But the point is you're scheduling it because you're saying there's an intentionality behind it. There is a true, and what I hope our listeners can be thinking about is what I'm offering, at least with my feedback is that if you don't intentionally do it, you can't break the habit of putting yourself into this energy deficit. So intentionality and focus, and I mean, we as coaches love to use the word reframing, and making yourself accountable for it will help you build that new habit too.
Yeah. I would say too, if you are going to put it into your calendar, do not let something override it. I know somebody, she will put something into her calendar, like, if she wants to take a bath in the middle of the week on one of the evenings. Baths to her are a luxury. And she's like this, like I have a whole routine. I have something around it. And she will not let plans change that time. I've had it where it's like, hey, you free on Thursday? Let's go do this. She's like, nope, sorry. I scheduled some downtime for myself. I'm taking a bath. I'm gonna put these new salts that I got into them. And it's so unapologetically like her, but it's a great example to contextualize of something where if you decide to put it into your calendar and you're setting that intention, do not let something else come up and override it. Because to me, going out on the Thursday would have been socialization. Perhaps that's not the energy she's looking to expend or like engage in to help her recharge. She needs quiet, solitude, downtime, and she's putting herself first by saying no to the plans and sticking to what she had put into her calendar for that evening.
Absolutely. I love the idea of telling someone, I'm sorry, I have some new bath salts I have to try out. Like, that's an amazing example of saying no.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so thoughtfully.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I've seen her do it to enough people that I'm like, this teaches me that I need to put myself like first more often.
But I'll tell you though, that's a new thing though, because like, you know, me growing up with being a working mom and having young kids to say, sorry, like, I'm taking a bath tonight. I mean, it just wouldn't fly. Like, we just wouldn't do that because we would always put everybody else first before ourselves. And I think this is crazy and great that the next generation is coming up. They're actually saying, you know what? I can't do that. That's just crazy. I do need to schedule some downtime. I'm going to stick to it. Because I'll tell you, my whole neighborhood and people, the other women I worked with, we would never do that. We would just push ourselves. And it was actually a point of pride as to how much we pushed ourselves and how we occupied every minute of the day. And off we went. Was that a good thing to do? Maybe, you know, in a short burst. But at the same time, though, we created these crazy expectations that we were always there for somebody else and not doing things for ourselves. So kudos to the next generations coming up that they are doing that. Because I'll tell you, we were tired. And not only tired, but we get awfully grumpy and we take it out on the wrong people. I can tell you that from experience.
But I think it also depends on the individual, because I remember the days, and I still come across people that are like, work hard, play hard. And that's their motto. And they live that lifestyle. The problem with that lifestyle is you're going to reach a point where you burn out and you physically either get ill or I hate to say it, but there's a breakdown in relationships and that leads to other addictions potentially. So there is that extreme as well. And I don't know if everyone is fully aware, even if we are talking about the newer generation, because I still see it even amongst some of the peers that I'm seeing in the office today. They will keep pushing themselves because they think they need to impress somebody up above. And they will work the extended hours without actually recognizing they need to slow down. And they can hear it. And I think I've repeated it to some people. Can you you need to slow down? Obviously, I picked the right words, but it doesn't click because it's like, but I need to impress. I need to keep driving. I need to deliver whatever that means for them. So I don't know if it's as commonplace. And maybe these kind of conversations, especially what we're trying to foster here, will help that awareness, both male and female. I don't think it's to one grouping or the other either.
Actually, it's funny to know because he just triggered me. Someone I coached just last week, and he was a man, and he was really proud of the fact that he could get things done really quickly and get things out the door, and up he goes, and boom, 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 get things done. But when promotion time came the year prior, he didn't get promoted where other peers of his did get promoted. And I think through our discussions, we realized it was more of a quality discussion as opposed to a quantity discussion. It's not how much stuff you get done, it's how well are you doing it. And sometimes if you're just, as I said earlier, in autopilot, you just do. Who knows if you're doing it well? Because you're just saying, I got to get this done. And you don't take the time to sit back and just take a look to see, am I doing this well? You know, am I taking that break? Am I taking that breather to make sure that what I've done is done properly? Am I reflecting? Am I saying, that was good. I'm going to take a little break and tackle the next project. I don't know. But it's interesting, though, that I didn't realize, well, maybe I did realize that this constant need to go and impress somebody up above and not taking those breaks, it's still happening quite a bit.
Well, and that leads me into thinking about emotional recharge. They may be physically capable of delivering, but how are they treating the people around them? What kind of leader are they showing up as? And I realize a lot of us are so absorbed in whatever situation we're involved in the moment, about delivering to the higher ups or the folks around us, that we may say something that we don't even realize lands with the people around in the most obtuse or ignorant way. Our mental capacity, our emotional capacity may be harmed even though our physical ability to deliver is in overdrive. I'll use that expression. And I think that's another byproduct of if your energy level is really low, what's actually coming across to the people you work with? Are you short with your comments? Is your tone dismissive or arrogant or just mean or snippety, right? Like people don't want to work with you if you're like that. Or are you moving into a micromanagement state? Is that a byproduct of the fact that you are actually exhausted? Because you can physically still deliver, you're getting into the nitty gritty and you're disassociating everybody from wanting to work with you because you're destroying the team experience. So not saying that is rooted in fact or fiction, but there is a potential of these adverse effects that you aren't even aware of coming up because your own energy bank is so low.
Yeah. Just scrape at the bottom, see what you can pull up. Yeah. So if you are running low and you feel like you hit rock bottom and you need to kind of get back up again, we could talk about something like a 10% rule, for instance, rather than trying to go from 0 to 100 because you say, I hit rock bottom. I got to get back to where I needed to be beforehand. That's a huge leap. That's a huge jump. And you just burn yourself out from going from 0 to 100 as opposed to taking those smaller steps. So, one piece of advice has always been to, just do 10% more. So rather than doing, just 100% and running that marathon, just run the 5K and get started that way and just see how you're doing. And that's a physical analogy, but in the work office as well. If you find you've really hit rock bottom, just say, rather than addressing all the emails that came to me today, I'm just going to address the top, the ones that are the most important, or the ones that came from my manager, or the ones that referred to the project I'm working on, and just kind of put things into bite size, get some successes. And then again, that'll revitalize you, helps you reset. And again, it gets that dopamine and cortisol going. So you do feel like you've accomplished something. You get that feel good energy back. And you can just kind of build on that going forward.
Mm-hmm. I would also add as well that really just the encouragement to notice patterns. Try to look and see, when do you feel the most depleted versus the most energized? And when it comes to that 10%, giving yourself that 10%, give yourself a margin of trial and error to find what actually works for you. You might not be able to figure out exactly what's going to energize you the first time around. And so give yourself that grace and that space to experiment, try, and evolve what is going to refuel you.
I would also say when you're in the workspace where things are hectic and there's lots on your plate and how are you incorporating some of these new tools, like some of the new AI tools, to help you prioritize what's top of mind? I know Copilot, for those that have access to Copilot, will be able to go through all of your emails and tell you what's the most important things you need to address that day. Are you utilizing some of these tools to help you make those decisions? And when you have more headspace and availability, how can you create, we'll use the expression agentic opportunities to help you get through that information? And again, those are more, for lack of a better word, practical things. It still goes back to the idea of experimentation and playing, recognizing, experimenting, playing, trying something different. Even just checking out for a moment is okay too. Giving yourself the right and the space to be delightful. I love this word, delightfully unproductive. Uncomfortable as it is, I'm going to be delightfully unproductive today.
That's good. Yeah, for me, that all goes back to being kind to yourself. You're kind to everybody else, why can't you be kind to yourself? And give yourself a little bit of grace, as we mentioned earlier. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to be your best self, this is what you need to do. Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so Divas, nice chat. Talked a lot about energy levels, energy toolkits, takeaways we have from today's discussion.
I think my takeaway, I have two. One is recharging is not a luxury. It isn't selfish. It is a strategic skill. Your life, your work, creativity, relationships, they all benefit when you operate from a full tank. And so with that, I would offer a simple kind of wrap-up tool, which is to pause, pinpoint, and plug in. Pause, take yourself out of autopilot, pinpoint, where is your fatigue coming from? What type of fatigue is this? It's a physical, mental, emotional. And then plug in by choosing one intentional tool to recharge yourself.
That's brilliant. To add on to that, when you're saying words like, I'm so tired, you're actually identifying the problem. You're identifying a potential piece of information. It's not failure. It's an energy dip. So tune in to all that Misha's just said and really think about, what patterns, what's coming up in that moment.
I love the fact, Daniela, that you mentioned that it's not failure, because it's not. If anything, you're being courageous because you're recognizing that, I'm not my best self and I need to do something about it. The only thing I would add to what the two of you have said is that these plans, these best practices, they're all personalized. What works for one individual will not work for another individual. So we need to make sure that whatever you come up with, it works for you and you alone, and you know what is best for yourself.
Thanks for listening to The Coaching Divas. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review and follow us on Instagram at The Coaching Divas.
Your ratings and reviews help more people like you find our podcast.
Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone you think would love it.
Until next time, we are
Claudia Jones,
Daniela Velkovic,
and Misha Jethba, The Coaching Divas.
If you're going to coach, might as well coach like a diva.